what really got me, right, on the president's side was that soon after he won, the 120-day promise, I think in there somewhere, they said it. They're not going to do any more mining in forests. And that is very key. Very, 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 very key. So it's like, stop the bleeding. You see, we're already bleeding. Akufo-Addo was issuing mining leases willy-nilly, especially in the forest reserve. We know how many times I've mentioned the Tiwa forest case. And Daryl is one of my clients. That's Arocha, 2019. When they said, no, they need jobs. So let's go into the Tiwa and mine anyhow, right? But when the president took over, for me, the key thing is that his promise, at least I've heard it not less than 3 times, where he's promised that there would be no mining in the forest. And that's huge. That is a huge step forward, right? And so, you know that even the 9 forest reserves that the Galamseyers were in, we took them back. Then the Galamseyers went back into 2. Then we went in back and flashed them, right? So my point is that and now we have permanent security forces stationed there. And I always like to invoke Article 210 to say that it's the police duty, because Article 210 says that soldiers are for external aggression and other developmental needs. And if you go to 200, it says the police is to maintain law and order, right? So once now we have permanent presence in these 9 forests, for me, I think we should, well, short of saying celebrating, I think we should commend the government for it, because, you know, when you do that, then they see that we are following the conversation. That's how come for me. I saw that yesterday's engagement was very positive. Yeah. Because initially, some people I said, oh, it's a talk shop, it's needless. I said, how? It's for you to go and make a new pitch to the president. Like we say locally, we sit here and talk. He hasn't seen you in person, but when you go and then you have an opportunity to make a new pitch, you see that even the arguments get refined. Because yesterday, one thing I followed was that, you know, hitherto we had all been talking about turbidity. But yesterday, Ken Ashibe moved the conversation forward and said, Mr. President, it's not just about turbidity, but the quality, the best measure.
There's a water quality index.
Thank you. So you see how now the conversation is moving forward. So those who said, no, it's a talk shop, it's needless, spoke too early. How many times we started reading the Bible as kids? Are we still not reading the Bible? And for that matter, also the Quran and the Torah and all the other religions. So sometimes I think we should hasten slowly. So for me, the taking over of the 9 forests is a key step forward. And before even that, number 1 is the fact that no more mining licenses, okay, mining leases, etc. In forest reserves, that's the big ticket. The big ticket, because that is stopping the bleeding. Then we've taken over some of the forests. Okay? Yeah. So saying that the LI will be repealed.
I think there was an update from the NIMOS commander that the 2 that were lost out of the 9 have been reclaimed.
Exactly, so I mentioned
all 9.
All 9, yes. So it means that we've made 11 attempts, right? So that is progress. And so what we need, and I keep saying, is that perhaps can we get a daily update? Maybe 9 more should be.
Yes.
They promised it.
Monthly. No, they
didn't promise. So that let's know
question that was asked.
Yeah. Yes, because that's what we've been saying here. Because you remember this permanent presence in the forest, etc. We advocated for it here. Initially, I remember some of the people in your team were saying, oh, it's impossible, no, go and shoot and kill and etc. But eventually, the president and his team saw that, no, let's put permanent people there, because you are coming to the forest and then you see that police vehicles are there. How are you going to continue? How are you going to continue? It's common sense that you've seen that the police are there. How are you going to continue? And so far, we see that, no, the Galamseyers don't go and start shooting our police. Right? Thank God that's not the thing. Because some were saying send in soldiers because soldiers will create more fear. No. Yeah. I think our people are being civil enough, and we are grateful that, yes, though they have arms, usually the arms are for their protection against robberies, etc., but not to harm our security agencies. So we are grateful for that. So now that we have the permanent forest, still answering your question. So for me, the repeal is like the icing on the cake. That's just the final thing. Yeah. It's not the beginning, because we went, I mean, the president announced cessation of mining in the forest long before. And he even, to be honest with you, you see, sometimes because of the way the advocacy is done, because we don't have enough time. Look, what happens is that the moment they took out that particular part, the first thing about the mining in the amendment,
section.
yes, the rest could have stayed until we are ready to do an overhaul. But I see sometimes in the advocacy, people just say, no, repeal the whole thing, repeal the whole thing. I didn't support it like that because you have to put in a new framework. But I know sometimes the majority carries the vote. So you don't want to be saying things every time against the grain. But really, my point is that this repeal, it's not as if the repeal is going to bring anything new. Because let's remember that currently there are a few mining companies that were giving leases to mine in some forests.
Yeah.
You know, Newmont, etc. They are in some forests. So you need this current law to regulate them. But sometimes, you know, it's just like the way we jumped onto the bandwagon. Oh, state of emergency, as if it was a magic wand. Then eventually, as the education started trickling in, we saw that, oh, it's not just about state of emergency. Whatever we can do now, we can do. The law doesn't stop us to putting more NIMOS and blue water gas officials on the ground. That's basically putting more boots on the ground, etc. Nothing stops us. We don't need a declaration of the state of emergency before we start taking action. And this one, let me tell you a two-line story. I'm not good at storytelling, but let's try this. Professor Kumado, you know, our venerable professor, constitutional law expert, this in the 70s, when they were in Commonwealth Hall, they used to entertain their female guests in their rooms in the night. Then, long story short, it came to a point, the hall authority said, no more female guests in the halls in the night. So they decided to go on an aluta. Then they got there, hall master came out and asked them one question. He says, so what entertainment can you have at night with your female guests that you cannot have during the day?
Right.
So meaning that we are not banning your entertainment. Yeah. It's just the time that we are banning. Don't do it at night. So meaning daytime, you can have it. Then he said, they started looking into each other's face. That, what is he saying? What is he saying? Then that was the end of the demo. So that's the same thing. That was the end of the demonstration, meaning I just changed the time. So it's the same thing with this Galamsey fight. People were talking as if until we declare a state of emergency, we can't take drastic measures. I was like, how? The laws, and the president was very clear. We have all the laws. We've not yet finished deploring. And you're saying state of emergency. How? As we speak now, we've not declared state of emergency. But Amakufibua, NIMOS, the water guards, they are in there. The police are in there. We've made 11 attempts in respect of the 9 forests. We've banned mining in forest reserves, etc. Did we need a state of emergency before we start acting? You see? So for me, what we need, Daryl, maybe we should have that perhaps after 3 months, you make another appeal to meet the president. Let the dialogue continue. That's participatory democracy. Because in coming to meet you, I'm sure the president would have even asked for an update from NIMOS, etc. Then he thinks about ways to improve the fight. Yes, so it's, by all means, let's continue the communication, the vigilance, because the more citizens stay vigilant and then hold duty bearers to account, then the better the outcomes.